right. So we talked about all the successes as Napoleon is the leader, the emperor of France, but he's going to have some failures along the way as well, which is going to be pretty big. And the big thing is Napoleon, once he tasted glory, he can never do without it. And he decides that he wants to go after the most successful country in the West, in Europe, which was Great Britain. So they're number one, and Napoleon can't handle that because he needs to be number one. So he tries to attack Great Britain in the Battle of Trafalgar, where he tried to clear the British ships from the English Channel in the hopes that he would be able to then cross the English Channel, go into Great Britain, and take care of things. But he ends up losing, and it was humiliating for Napoleon. But he's not done yet because he just doesn't get defeated one time and recognize that maybe he should give it up. Instead, he tries to go after Great Britain again. And he tried to blockade like Great Britain and like basically like a big island with all, England and Scotland and whatnot. Well, he decided that he was going to cut trade between Great Britain and then the rest of Europe. So he's going to basically suffocate the British economy. Well, what he failed to recognize is Great Britain had the greatest navy of the time. So instead, Great Britain blockaded Europe. And all these European countries that were like, okay, yeah, Napoleon, we'll be on your side, they got ticked at Napoleon. So he basically ticked off all of his allies because Great Britain did to Europe what Napoleon was planning on doing to them. So, ends up ticking off his enemies, his friends. The second mistake is Napoleon had installed his brother Joseph as the king of Spain, and he had sent like 118,000 or so of his soldiers across into Spain to ensure that his brother would get to be like the legit ruler. Well, the people of Spain didn't want Napoleon's brother Joseph to rule. So he thought, like, if I say, hey, I'm going to help rule, then all the Spanish people would totally welcome him with open arms. Yeah, no, the Spanish were super like nationalistic, and instead he inspired revolts. And the Spanish used like guerrilla tactics where they like one night they killed 150 French soldiers, and then the French retaliate, they kill Spaniards, and then all of a sudden it just becomes like this brutal, like no holds bar war where both sides are like super savage. The French are going to torture, mutilate their prisoners, and then eventually England is going to come to help. And so Napoleon tries to get Spain, and he doesn't, and end up, because like Spain, Portugal, that's a peninsula of Europe, they call it the Peninsular War. And then the third one, he goes after Russia to his east, and super fascinating, where he was having success, but the Russians use what's called a scorched earth policy. Of the Russians just basically burn everything, because Napoleon and his men, they're phenomenally trained. They can live off of the land. Well, if there's no good land to live off of, then they're going to suffer. And that Russia has really terrible winters like we do. And so Napoleon is going to lose like 400,000, almost 400,000 troops when he tries to attack Russia. And I guess in this attack of Russia, he even had like a vial of poison in a leather bag tied around his neck because he was worried about himself possibly getting captured and dying. And then you're welcome to read in your notes or look up a little bit more about any of these mistakes that Napoleon had. Yikes.